Bring in Professor Peter Mathews, who's a political analyst with Southern California University and joins us from that state live now at this hour. Prof, it's great to have you on the SABC News channel. I know it's just about midnight where you're at, even though it's just after 9 o'clock here. So we appreciate your staying up to help us understand what we've just witnessed. And perhaps we could just kick things off, Prof, with the optics of the debate that took place a few hours ago. Kamala Harris looking directly at Donald Trump, even though it seemed the former president didn't want to make eye contact. What do you make of that before we jump into the substance of what took place?
That showed a tremendous amount of strength on her part. It gave her stature, which she already has intellectually, but it showed her physical stature. She could look at this person who was an opponent who was trying to hire. He couldn't even afford to look at her. He had to look at down and was hunched over. So it was quite significant in terms of her projected strength in the debate and her positioning. I think it was quite remarkable.
Right. They kicked off with trying to make sense of the economy. I mean, many analysts who are speaking post the fact say this isn't, in fact, a strong point for the Harris-Biden administration, and I presume that's because of just how the past few months have fared. Do you reckon that there were clear positions from both sides, though, about how they plan to, make sure that the economy is headed in the right direction?
There are in their campaigns, I'm sure of that, and tonight some of that came out. For one thing, President Trump's solution is to have tax cuts on the investing class, the wealthiest people in the United States. He believes he has tax cuts on billionaires and millionaires. They will take that money and invest it and grow their businesses. It will all trickle down to the workers. They'll be able to hire more workers and create more jobs. But that trickle-down economics hasn't worked very well in the last 100 years. And Vice President Harris's position is different. It's to grow the economy from the bottom up, to have bring in tax investments, taxing the billionaires and the wealthiest people, bring the money in for the working middle class and the working poor, to invest in programs like providing $25,000 to first-time home buyers to be able to have a down payment to buy a home. And she had several other solutions for childcare. She had solutions for allowing entrepreneurs about $50,000 to start small businesses. So building infrastructure, she was also had a big part of that infrastructure act that was passed recently, which brought in a lot of money for that. And I think that it's a ground-up approach is the one she's offering. I think most Americans will really prefer that and see that as more viable. Although they're also concerned about what happened in the last 4 years with the price of a lot of goods having gone up since COVID. And yet inflation rates have gone back down again, but still the prices haven't gone down to a pre-COVID times. And that's what people are concerned about. But I think that Vice President Kamala Harris is assuring the American people that if they give her 4 years, she'll be able to turn things around even further and make things better on the upward trend.
That's interesting. Abortion inevitably was going to feature as well in this debate, and it's, I suppose, more poignant because of that recent ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court that essentially overturned the procedure in some states. It was interesting to see Donald Trump suggesting at some stage that, if the Kamala Harris has her way, some children, I think he said, will be executed right after birth, and he had to be fact-checked by the moderator, who pointed out that none of that is actually happening. Who won the abortion debate?
Well, hands down, Kamala Harris won that debate. It was one of her strongest points during the debate because she is speaking from the mind and the heart and mind, knowing that abortion choice is a woman's prerogative as a human being to make her own decision about her own body, her own future, about reproductive rights. And the women believe Kamala Harris, and by the way, she has a gender gap supporting her of about 30% between men and women. So she has maybe about 16% lead among women voters, and Trump has something like 13% lead among men. You add that together, you get about 30% gender gap, which is the biggest gender gap in any presidential election ever in history. So she came across strongly with emphasizing that it's a woman's choice that it should be. And Trump was saying, well, I'll let the states decide. Well, the states decided, and many women's lives were in danger, as Kamala Harris pointed out. There are women bleeding in the parking lots while they're waiting to have health care regarding an aborted situation that was very precarious for them when they were pregnant. There were young girls who were raped by stepfathers and had to go to the neighboring state to get an abortion. A 10-year-old girl, for example, a doctor provided abortion treatment to an abortion pill. It wasn't a medical abortion, it was a pill. And that was something that helped her be able to overcome this situation, a little 10-year-old girl. And Kamala Harris pointed out those very poignant examples of when this danger for women and their health and girls and their health because of Trump's Supreme Court that overturned the nationwide guarantee on abortion before Roe v. Wade was overturned in the Dobbs decision by the Trump-led court. He
Right.
appointed 3 of those justices that voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. So that's what happened with abortion. She won clearly on that.
Right. Although Donald Trump did come out to say very clearly, I think, that he's not really in support of an outright ban on abortion. He also mentioned some exceptions, including, instances where women were raped or in the case of incest. How do you reckon that landed with his constituency?
I think some of his constituents believed him, but then again, people will say, show me what you did. How can we trust that you won't? In fact, he refused to say that he would veto a nationwide abortion ban bill if it came to his desk. He refused to make a commitment on that when she asked him to. So that's kind of shaky for him. But he did talk about exceptions. He did say if the mother's life is in danger, he would allow abortions. But he's going to vote in Florida in this very strict case of opposing a liberalization of the abortion law in Florida. Because right now, I believe up to 6 weeks people can have abortions, but many women don't even know they're pregnant up to 6 weeks. And Trump is saying that he's going to vote to keep that ban, that low amount of time abortion in place. So he's really all over the place on the abortion issue. He's changed his mind. In earlier days, in his early career, he used to be pro-choice, clearly and publicly. Now he's been playing politics with it. So I think it might have landed favorably with some people, but not the majority of voters.
Yeah. There are only just 8 weeks until Election Day, and we also understand this is the first and only debate between these two presidential candidates. A question that I think is always worth asking, especially after the debate, is whether or not you reckon it went any way in helping an undecided voter kind of land on a decision, and if it went in any way in helping decided voters change their mind.
I think the second part is more likely, that it landed with some undecided voters and helped them make up their mind. Because, and by the way, 28%, the polling, it showed that 28% of the voters said that they didn't know enough about Kamala Harris to make up their minds before the debate. So she had an opportunity to expand her acquaintance with the voters and even expand her voting base by bringing in some of those 28% who wanted to know more about her and didn't know. But Trump, only 9% said they wanted to know more about him. So the potential there was for Kamala Harris to expand her base with her performance, and she did very clearly very well. Most people say she won this debate hands down, and that'll help her with the undecided voters where she had a larger potential to gain more support. As far as those who made up their mind already, I think this debate didn't really help in any way to change their minds that much.
All right, it's remarkable to see how much may have changed since, Joe Biden bowed out of the race and Kamala Harris took over. But we'll all wait for November to see how things ultimately unfold. Professor Peter Mathews, great speaking to you. Thanks very much indeed for your time. Professor Mathews live to us there from California. He's with the Southern California University.